Hello guys, welcome back to another video on indices, and this is the complete package on simplifying indices, and we are only going to be looking at the addition rule. So if you are not familiar with the addition rule, I strongly recommend you go back and you have a look at one of the previous videos I made. I'll put a link in the description to that video. Now, in this video, we are going to be looking at how to simplify just simple basic questions. Then we're going to be moving on to simplifying with negative powers, and then we're going to throw in some algebra in there, and then finally we're going to put everything we've learned into the advanced stuff. So it's a bit of everything in that last part. Now again, this is only using the addition rule. Now this will be a lengthy video, so I've put some timestamps in the description box, so feel free to go to the section that you want to brush up on. Right, having said that, let's head in. So before we start, I'm just going to make a note of the addition rule, since that is what we'll be using in this video. So it's something like a squared times a cubed, and then when we multiply we add the indices, so 2 plus 3, and that gives us 5. Okay, right, so how do we simplify indices? Let's have a look at this question here. So I'm going to write 2 times 3 squared times 4 times another 3 squared. Now before we actually tackle this question here, I'm just going to take you on the side, on the right hand side, and go, if we had 1 times 2 times 3, what's my answer to that? 1 times 2 is 2, times 3 is 6. Now, if I rearranged the order of these numbers, so if I mix them up or reverse the order, would I get the same answer? So let's try and say 3 times 1 times 2. So 3 times 1 is 3, times 2 is 6. So I end up with the same answer, which means that I can mix up the numbers and still end up with the same answer. So the order does not matter. So coming back to the indices question here, we can simplify this by rearranging the order. And the way we do it is we sort of collect like terms. You can think of it like that. So we put the numbers together. So I'm going to put 2 and 4 here. So 2 times 4. And then I'm going to be multiplying it by the indices, the base and the index. So times 3 squared times 3 squared. And as you can see, 2 times 4 is 8 times, now we can use the addition rule here. We can add the powers, so that will be 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, and that's the answer. Right, let's have a look at another question. So suppose we had something like
5 squared times 7 times 5 to the power of 8. And then times
2. Okay, so again, using what we've just learnt, the order doesn't matter, so we can rearrange things. So we can go, okay, let's do the numbers first. So let's do 7 times 2 first. And then we're going to multiply that by the indices, the base and the index. I'm going to go 5 squared times 5 to the power of 8. So that'll be 14 times, now here we can add the indices because we are multiplying, so it will be 2 plus 8, which is 10, and that's your answer. 14 times 5 to the power of 10. Now let's have a look at the negative indices. So I'm just going to make a note of it here at the top. So we're going to have negatives and underline it, that is an E. So say we had 3 to the power of negative 2 times 3 power of 4. Now again, since we are multiplying, the addition rule still applies. So we can add the two powers. So we can say it's 3, negative 2, and I'm going to add that 4, that positive 4. Okay. Now it's a matter of knowing your negative numbers. If you're unsure, just draw yourself a number line.
So I can go to number line, and I go whether 0, negative 1, 2, 3, and so on. And on this side, you have 1,
2, 3. And so we're at negative 2, we're going to add 4, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that is a 2. So my answer would be 3 to the power of 2, or 3 squared. And that's it. So it's the same when we have algebra and when we are looking at letters and variables. So even like symbols, giraffes, elephants, it's the same rules that always apply. So we're just going to look at one last one, and this time we're going to look at G for giraffe. So G cubed times G to the negative 5. Okay, so again we're going to add up the indices. So 3 add my negative 5. Right, if you're unsure of your negatives, you need, I have made a video which I will be uploading soon on negative numbers, but just for reference I usually do this. So I'll go right, I've got positive, negative, so I've got a wonky looking eye, so I am negative. Alright, I'm feeling down. So this will be a negative here, so that would be G, 3 take away 5, and then using your number line, we are at 3 and we're going to take away 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, we happen to land on negative 2 again. So now the answer is G to the power of negative 2. Right, let's move on to the algebra. So I'm just going to make a note of it at the top here. So this time we're going to have 2a squared times 5a6. Now again, if you remember from the first slide we looked at, the order does not matter. So we can break this up and then we can be able to simplify it. I'm going to break up this 2 here and have it next to that 5. So I'm going to go 2 times 5. I'm then going to have the a squared and the a to the power of 6 together. So a squared times a to the power of 6. Okay, and then we can go about multiplying. So it'll be 10 times a to the power of 8, because we are adding the indices. Right, so that's the first one done. Let's look at another example. So I'm going to draw a line and let's have a look at some negatives. Now again, we can break things up. So I'm going to have the numbers together. I have negative 4 times 6, and then times b cubed times b to the power of 7. Right, negative numbers. Negative 4 times 6, that makes a negative 24. If you're unsure, you can have a look at my other video on negatives. I will be uploading it soon. I'm going to times by b, and I'm going to add the powers, so that'll be 10. Okay, and that's it, you leave it as there. Now, as a tip in maths, just give you a quick tip here. So, tip, just going to draw, I'm not an artist yet. I actually like that. Now, in maths, we tend to get rid of anything extra. Okay, so we can rewrite that answer as 10a to the power of 8. Okay, it means the same thing, 10 times a to the power of 8. Here we can rewrite that as negative 24 and then b 10. Okay, it just makes more sense to say I've got 10 lots of a to the power of 8, or I've got negative 24. Lots of, B10s. Now, lastly, we are going to be looking at the advanced stuff. So I'm just going to make a note of it here on the top.
Left of the page, the advanced stuff.
Okay, so suppose we have, I'm just going to look at one question here because it is slightly advanced and it is time consuming. So hopefully this will give you all the skills that you need to be able to solve other questions. So we're going to look at 6
y squared b times 3b cubed y
cubed. Now, I've made them all positives just to make our lives easier. But by all means, though, you will see some negatives, in normal textbooks and exam papers. So you're just going to have to, learn your negatives. So the way we go about it is we break things up. So I'm going to have my 6 times 3 here, and then I'm going to have my y squared times y cubed here, and then I'm going to have my b's at the end. So I'm going to have times b cubed. So I know what you're probably thinking, but I'm going to get to that in just a second. So here we have 18 times, here we use the addition law and we can add the indices, so that'll be y. 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, the b's here, this first b here, does not have a power. So what do we add? What do we do? Well, if you remember back in, I think it was the first video, we established that anything to the power of 1 is the number itself. So I think we looked at something like elephants or something. So if this was a, say, 10 to the power of 1, this would be 10. If we had an elephant, E for elephant, to the power of 1, then this will be E. We just have an elephant. So what this means is that we can have a 1 next to the B here. It doesn't change the value of it. So now that we know there's an imaginary 1 here, we can add up the powers. So we can go 1 plus 3, which is 4. And that's pretty much it, except we just need to get rid of the multiplication sign. It's just a little bit extra, we don't need it. So you go 18 y to the power of 5, and then b 4. Now in maths we tend to write it alphabetically, so this would be 18. You don't have to really, but it's good practice if you do. Okay, it just makes it more, it looks more, that's all it is, it looks more. Now I'm going to leave you with one question for you to do, and you can let me know in the comments what you get. And I'll be looking out for the answer, and I'll make sure to give you a like for that answer. So the question is, write it here, here's the question. It's a badly drawn Q. It's so that's your question. There are some negatives, so be careful here, and let me know what the answer is in the comment section. Now, if you've made it this far, then hats off to you. You've made it. This is probably a grade 5 here. We're looking at grade 5, 6, and it does get harder, but I'm going to stop right here, and thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next video.